AITA for outing my wife's asexuality after she just let her friends gang up on me. A little backstory. We've been together for 9 years and married for a little over 3 years. Initially, we both had incredibly high sex drives, but as is normal, they began to come and go over time. We used to never go more than a few days without having sex. We got married just before the pandemic, which might have added to things, but the long story short of it is that after some personal therapy at the beginning of 2020, my wife concluded that she was asexual and mostly had sex for my benefit and to maintain the relationship. Looking back, I can kind of see it now, although it would have been nice to know beforehand, but it is what it is. She still offers sex once in a while because she knows I want to have it, but I turn it down every time. It's no fun having sex with someone who is just doing it for your benefit. If I'm going to have sex with someone, they should actually want to have sex with me, not just for maintenance. Fast forward to this past Friday. We went to a party at one of her friend's house. I know a few people there, so it's never too bad, although I'm not a big party guy. As usual, we end up being one of the last few to leave. The last hour or so of these parties is usually chill. We just sit around in the living room, chat, catch up, it's quiet, but the conversations eventually turn sexual and personal, and I hate it. Honestly, for obvious reasons, namely having to hear all these women talk about how much they love having sex with their husbands, partners, and all the things they do, knowing I will never have that. The worst part, though, is my wife makes up all these wild stories and things we do, not even things we have done in the past, just flat out lies because she's embarrassed about her asexuality. I just nod along since she's not really comfortable with other people knowing. I had come back from the bathroom to them having a conversation about oral sex. One story about how someone didn't like it at first. Now they love it. Another about wishing they got it more. Another about liking it more than sex sometimes. Then it comes time for my wife to talk, and they are prying for details. For whatever reason, my wife decides to tell the truth and says that she can't remember the last time someone went down on her. Of course, she left out the key bit of context, which turned into this group haranguing about how I need to put in more effort, how my wife probably gives me head all the time and I don't return the favor, and how it's typical of men to be selfish lovers. I endured it for a few minutes, hoping my wife would jump in and stop it. She just kept quietly saying, it's okay, I don't mind, he does other stuff, and so on. However, they kept going. Finally, one of her friends, who has an anecdote I despise because she's overly confrontational for absolutely no reason, demanded to know why I don't perform oral on my wife more often in a room full of about 9 other people. I looked at my wife and asked if she'd like to chime in, but she didn't. I shrugged and said that I actually enjoy performing oral on women, but my wife doesn't let me because we don't have sex. My wife's face dropped as she shot me a look. I didn't explicitly say she was asexual. I just said we didn't have sex and haven't for a few years when further harassed about it. She immediately began apologizing for me, explaining that things have been rocky, so we haven't been having sex much, which I immediately shut down because that's not even remotely true. If anything, things have been great lately. If she's been having issues or doubts, this would be my first time hearing them. I finally gave up. I told my wife I was going home, but she said she wasn't done yet or ready to leave. I logged into Uber on her phone so she could use my account and told her she can take it home or stay the night. But I would not sit here and be a punching bag because she was too ashamed to admit she was asexual. My wife immediately ran to the bathroom, and I was told to leave. She came home not long after me and hasn't spoken much to me since, except to half-heartedly apologize. But that outing her like I did was worse. I apologized for outing her, but she didn't leave me much choice. A few of her friends have messaged me, calling me every name in the book and saying they're going to convince her to leave me. 1 or 2 of the boyfriends' husbands messaged me, said they were sorry and didn't know, and offered to buy me a beer if I wanted. Another friend in an openly poly relationship actually offered to have sex with me, which I showed my wife immediately. She says she knows it must have been trashy to sit there and take it, but that they're not really my friends. So, some momentary discomfort from people I don't really associate with isn't comparable to her prolonged discomfort of significant people in her life now knowing she's asexual. I completely disagree but can kind of see where she's coming from, so am I the jerk here? Update. A few things I can't reply to because there are so many comments, and I can't respond to all of them. 1. I actually don't mind not having sex because I genuinely love her. There are times it does get to me, and this was admittedly one of them, but they are very rare, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. No part of me believes she bait and switched me for a ring. That's just not who she is. 2. She is asexual. She's not involved with other guys. I'm not some guy waiting at home, as a few DMs insinuated. I went with her for a few therapy sessions where she let me know. I fully support her. 3. Yes, I'm aware that technically it is my fault we don't have sex. Asexuality is a spectrum. Yes, she feels no desire to have sex. She physically likes sex, but otherwise she could live without it. My boundary is I don't want to have sex with someone who doesn't desire me. I'm not undermining asexuality by having that boundary. 4. The issue here isn't that I'm with someone who is asexual. I'm not sure why people keep telling me my marriage is over. I never suggested it. The issue is how she handles it and expects me to take the brunt of this kind of BS because she's ashamed of it. Update. In the time since, I did apologize for outing her, and she apologized to me for letting it get that far. She ended up telling all her friends, and none of them cared and were entirely supportive. She asked them to apologize to me because it was her who put me in that situation. But only one of them has, and it was a half-hearted one at that. Paraphrasing. But basically, yeah, sorry, but maybe it's best if you don't come to gatherings anymore, sort of thing. We've started back at couples counseling too. I was happy with where things ended up after the initial conversation. But we decided to go back to get everything out and hopefully find a workable way forward. A few things I wanted to address from comments everywhere. Asexuality is real. She's not low libido. She has no libido and doesn't feel that urge everyone else does. She believes she never has but talked herself into thinking it because that's what she felt she was supposed to do. I wasn't paraphrasing, misunderstanding, or putting words in her mouth. This is her description of it. A handful of people said it was entirely my fault for us not having sex and my boundary was harmful to asexual people and childish. So I wanted to clarify, my wife was the one who used the phrasing of maintenance sex. She has made it clear that she has no desire for sex but will do it for me occasionally if I want it. In her words, it's a task she is happy to do to keep me happy, and I'm not comfortable with that. It's more or less a favor, like if I asked her to pick up my dry cleaning. It's not selfish or childish to want a partner to actually want to have sex with you. Otherwise, it's masturbating with someone's body, which I'm not fine with. I'm fine without sex. That part was grossly overinflated in some comments. I was uncomfortable at the lying and being thrown under the bus. I value her for far more than sex anyway. Many people pointed out how it was weird friends sit around and talk about their sex lives. I believe so to some degree. These aren't super raunchy conversations anyway, but I see no issue in close friends being open about things like this. It's not a big deal to me personally. A couple of people sent me resources on being a partner to someone who is asexual, and I want to thank you for that. Some people were confused about the ages too. Everyone is late 20 to mid 30. So yeah, boring update, I know, but everything is fine. From the comments. 1. So your wife is going to just keep hanging out with the people she let trash on you, while you stay home, disinvited. And she's cool with this. I'm glad you could move past it. Sounds sketchy to me. 2. Honest question. Would you have married her knowing what you know now? I can't imagine spending my life with someone that has zero interest in romance. Lifelong roommate. I would feel tricked. OP. 1. In her defense, without me asking since I wouldn't be comfortable telling her who and who not to be friends with, she has turned down a couple of invites since, and has removed the 2 main instigators from social media, which is enough for me. I forgot to add that to the original post, sorry. 2. Yes, because there's more to a romantic relationship than sex.